The lecture hall buzzed with nervous energy as 47 cadets from 12 different species shuffled into their seats. Commander Vex 941 stood at the podium, his 4 eyes scanning the room with the enthusiasm of someone about to perform a root canal without anesthesia. Today's topic: human combat doctrines and tactical analysis. Oh, what fun! Attention, cadets. Vex 941's voice boomed through the chamber. Today we study the combat methodologies of the species that single-handedly turned the galactic war from a civilized conflict into, well, whatever you call what happened at the Battle of Kepler 442. A ripple of uncomfortable chittering spread through the room. Everyone knew about Kepler 442. It was the battle where humans had somehow convinced an entire Thrakari battle fleet to surrender by playing something called death metal at maximum volume, while performing what they termed aggressive negotiations. Your assignment, Vex 941 continued, is to present your analysis of human combat techniques. Groups of 4. Begin. The first group consisted of 3 Zephyrians and 1 particularly nervous Aquarian named Blip. They shuffled to the front, their presentation materials clutched in trembling appendages. So began Glimmer, the lead Zephyrian. We studied the human concept of Berserker rage. She paused, looking around the room. Apparently, when humans get really angry, they just stop thinking and start hitting things. Hard. That's it? Vex 941 raised an eyebrow. That's your analysis? Well, sir, Blip squeaked. We tried to understand the tactical advantage of abandoning all rational thought in combat, but our research concluded that it shouldn't work. Yet somehow, it does. Frequently. The second group, led by a confident helix named Zoom, took the stage with significantly more swagger. We analyzed human psychological warfare, Zoom announced. They have this thing called trash talking where they insult their enemies during combat to decrease morale. Example? Vex 941 prompted. Well, during the siege of Proxima Station, human soldiers were recorded shouting things like your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries. While charging enemy positions, the class fell silent. Several cadets blinked in confusion. We're still trying to figure out what a hamster is, Zoom admitted, but apparently it's devastating to morale. As group after group presented their findings, a pattern emerged. Human combat doctrine made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Yet it worked with terrifying effectiveness. They studied guerrilla tactics that involved hiding in places no sane being would consider hiding, urban warfare strategies that seemed to involve a lot of property damage and creative use of civilian infrastructure, and something called blitzkrieg, which was apparently just moving really fast and hoping for the best. But throughout all these presentations, Vex 941 kept glancing at one particular cadet. Her name was Luna Martinez, a human exchange student who sat in the 3rd row, taking notes with an expression of barely contained amusement. When the 7th group finished their presentation on human naval combat irregularities, but specifically the incident where a human captain had defeated a Corvan dreadnought using nothing but a cargo freighter, what the report described as aggressive parking maneuvers, Vex 941 finally spoke up. Miss Martinez, he said, his voice carrying across the lecture hall. You've been remarkably quiet during these presentations. Any insights to share? Luna looked up from her notes, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Oh, I'm just enjoying the show, Commander. It's fascinating to see how you all interpret our methods. Interpret? Vex 941's mandibles clicked in what might have been irritation. Are you suggesting these analyses are incorrect? Not incorrect, exactly, Luna said, standing up, just incomplete. The room went dead silent. Even the environmental systems seemed to hold their breath. Enlighten us. Then, Vex 941 said, gesturing toward the front of the room, since you're the expert. Luna walked to the front with the casual confidence of someone who had absolutely nothing to lose. Well, the thing is, she began, you're all looking at our combat doctrines like there's some kind of mysterious alien technology. But really, they're just practical solutions to practical problems. She turned to address the class. Take the Berserker rage example. You called it abandoning rational thought. We call it flow state or getting in the zone. It's not about stopping thinking. It's about stopping overthinking. When you're in combat, hesitation kills. So we train ourselves to act on instinct and muscle memory. A Corvan cadet named Thrix raised a tentacle. But the tactical manuals say proper combat requires careful analysis of battlefield conditions, threat assessment, and calculated response protocols. Luna laughed. A sound that somehow managed to be both musical and slightly terrifying. Sure, if you have time for all that. But what happens when someone's shooting at you and you have about half a second to decide whether to duck, dodge, or charge? You follow established protocols? Thrix ventured. You get shot, Luna said cheerfully. While you're running through your mental checklist, the other guys already moved to cover and flanked your position. Vex 941 leaned forward in his chair. So you're saying human combat doctrine is based on speed of decision-making? That's part of it. Luna nodded. But there's more. See, you've been analyzing our tactics like they exist in a vacuum, but they don't. They're part of a whole system that includes training, equipment, logistics, and psychology. She gestured to the presentation screen. Take the aggressive parking maneuvers example. You're thinking about it as a naval combat technique, but that captain wasn't trying to fight a space battle. He was trying to solve a problem. The problem was, how do you stop a dreadnought when you don't have any weapons? The logical solution would be to retreat and call for backup, offered a silicate cadet named Prism. Sure, Luna shrugged. If you have backup to call. If you have time to wait for it. If you can accept the casualties that will result from letting that dreadnought continue its mission. But what if you can't? What if you're it? What if it's down to you and a cargo freighter versus a ship that outguns you by about 1,000 to 1? The room was so quiet you could hear the soft hum of the air recyclers. Then you get creative. Luna continued. You look at what you have and what your opponent has, and you find a way to turn your weakness into their weakness. That cargo freighter? It's big, it's slow, it's completely defenseless, but it's also expendable. And it's got a massive cargo capacity. She paused, letting the implications sink in. Wait, Zoom said slowly. The cargo hold, he loaded it with something. Explosives, suggested another cadet. Luna shook her head. Nope, something much more dangerous. He loaded it with about 10,000 tons of industrial-grade lubricant. The silence stretched out like a rubber band about to snap. Lubricant? Vex 941 finally managed. Yep, Luna said, popping the P sound. See, the Corvan dreadnought had this really impressive armor system. Self-repairing, energy-absorbing, practically indestructible. But it had one tiny weakness. The armor repair systems needed to be able to access the outer hull to make repairs. Understanding began to dawn on several faces. He rammed the dreadnought, whispered Thrix, but not to damage it. To deliver the lubricant directly to the hull. Exactly. Luna grinned. 10,000 tons of industrial-grade lubricant spread across the entire outer hull of a dreadnought. Suddenly, the repair systems couldn't get proper adhesion. The armor plating started sliding around. The ship became about as structurally sound as a house of cards in a hurricane. But how did he know that would work? Prism asked. The technical specifications of Corvan armor systems are classified. Luna's grin widened. Because 3 months earlier, a human engineer named Jake Peterson had been working on a joint project with the Corvan military. He'd accidentally spilled coffee on a prototype armor sample and watched it slide right off the workbench. Being human, his first thought wasn't I should report this potential vulnerability to the proper authorities. It was I wonder if this works on bigger pieces. The class erupted in a mixture of gasps, chittering, and what sounded like mechanical laughter from the synthetic cadets. You're telling us, Vex 941 said slowly, that human combat doctrine is based on spilled coffee and curiosity about whether things scale up? Among other things, yes, Luna nodded. We call it thinking outside the box. You call it catastrophic deviation from established protocols, but really, it's just problem solving under pressure. She turned back to the class. See, the thing about humans is that we're really good at improvising. We've been doing it for millennia. Our entire evolutionary history is basically a series of situations where we had to figure out how to survive using whatever was lying around. But surely there must be some systematic approach to this improvisation, insisted Glimmer. Some underlying methodology? Luna considered this. Well, there is one principle we tend to follow. It's called the KISS principle. KISS? Vex 941 raised an eyebrow. Keep it simple, stupid, Luna translated. The idea is that the simplest solution is usually the best solution. Complex plans have more things that can go wrong. Simple plans are harder to screw up. A Drakmarian cadet named Frost raised a scaly hand. But what about the psychological warfare aspects? The trash-talking phenomenon? Luna laughed again. Oh, that's not really about psychological warfare. That's just humans being humans. We talk a lot. We talk when we're happy, when we're sad, when we're scared, when we're angry. We talk to ourselves, to each other, to our equipment, to our enemies. She paused, thoughtful. I guess you could say talking is how we process stress, and combat is definitely stressful. So we talk our way through it. But the insults? Zoom pressed. Surely those are designed to demoralize the enemy? Sometimes, Luna admitted. But more often they're just social bonding. Humans use humor to cope with fear. If you can laugh at something, it can't hurt you as much. And if you can make your buddies laugh, well, that's even better. She gestured to the screen showing the Proxima Station footage. That hamster quote? That's from an ancient human entertainment program. The soldiers weren't trying to confuse their enemies. They were referencing a shared cultural memory that made them feel connected to their history and their comrades. So the psychological effect on the enemy was accidental? Vex 941 asked. Completely, Luna confirmed. Though once we figured out it worked, we definitely started doing it on purpose. We're not above using whatever advantages we can find. The lecture hall buzzed with conversation as cadets began to reassess everything they thought they knew about human combat doctrine. But Vex 941 wasn't finished. Miss Martinez, he said, his voice cutting through the chatter, you've explained the methodology behind human tactics. But you haven't explained why they work so well against species that should, by all logic, be superior in combat. Luna's expression grew serious. That's a good question, Commander, and the answer is both simple and complicated. She turned to face the class fully. The simple answer is that we're unpredictable. Your species, all of your species, have evolved highly efficient combat doctrines. You've optimized for specific scenarios, specific threats, specific types of warfare. Your tactics are logical, systematic, and effective against other logical, systematic opponents. Anything else? And the complicated answer? Frost asked. The complicated answer is that humans are chaos engines, Luna said quietly. We don't just adapt to our environment, we remake it. We don't just solve problems, we create new problems that require new solutions. We don't just fight wars, we redefine what war means. The room fell silent again. Every species in this galaxy learned to fight by fighting others of their own kind. Luna continued, you developed tactics to counter your own tactics. You built defenses against your own weapons. You created strategies to defeat your own strategies. She paused, looking around the room at faces that were beginning to show something that might have been concern. But humans? We learned to fight by fighting everything. Each other, sure. But also the environment, the weather, predators, prey, disease, disasters, and concepts like hunger, thirst, and despair. And we've been in a state of constant warfare against the universe itself for our entire existence. So when we encounter other species, she continued, we don't just see opponents, we see problems to be solved. And we've gotten very, very good at solving problems. Commander Vex 941 stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, deliberately, he made a note on his tablet. Class dismissed, he said quietly. Except for Miss Martinez. I need to speak with you privately. As the other cadets filed out, chattering excitedly about everything they'd learned, Luna remained behind. When the room was empty except for the two of them, Vex 941 turned to her. That was quite the performance, he said. Performance? Luna raised an eyebrow. Come now, Miss Martinez. You're not just an exchange student, are you? Luna smiled. But it wasn't the cheerful expression she'd worn during the lecture. This smile had edges. What makes you think that, Commander? Because you just gave a 40-minute dissertation on human combat doctrine that was more insightful than our entire military intelligence database, Vex 941 said. And you did it off the cuff, without notes, while maintaining the persona of a casual observer. Maybe I'm just a good student, Luna suggested. Maybe, Vex 941 agreed, or maybe you're exactly what our intelligence reports suggested you might be. It's a human military operative gathering intelligence on Galactic Defense Force training protocols. The silence stretched between them like a blade. And if I were? Luna asked finally. Then I'd congratulate you on an excellent infiltration, Vex 941 said. And I'd ask you to stay for the next lecture, because after what you've just shown us, I think we have a lot more to learn. Luna studied his face, looking for deception, threats, or traps. She found none. What's the next lecture about? She asked. Human defensive strategies, Vex 941 said. Specifically, how humans have managed to hold their territory against species with superior technology, numbers, and resources. And you want me to observe? I want you to teach, Vex 941 said. Because I have a feeling that what we think we know about human defensive strategies is about as accurate as what we thought we knew about human offensive strategies. Luna was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed, that same musical sound that had somehow managed to be both reassuring and terrifying. You know what, Commander? I think you're right. We probably do have a lot more to learn. Is that a yes? That's a yes. But I have one condition, which is, next time I get to see the intelligence reports first. I want to know exactly what you think you know about us before I start correcting your assumptions. Vex 941 considered this, agreed. But I have a condition too, which is, you have to promise me that whatever you teach these cadets, you'll teach them the truth, not propaganda, not misdirection, just the truth about how humans fight and why. Luna extended her hand. Deal. As they shook hands, Vex 941 couldn't help but wonder what he'd just gotten himself into. But one thing was certain, the next few lectures were going to be very interesting indeed. Outside the lecture hall, the cadets were still buzzing with excitement and confusion. Everything they thought they knew about combat had been turned upside down in the span of a single class period. Did you see the way she talked about problem solving? Zoom whispered to Glimmer. Like it was the most natural thing in the world? That's what scares me. Glimmer replied. If that's how humans think about combat, then we've been preparing for the wrong kind of war. What do you mean? Asked Blip. I mean, we've been preparing to fight an enemy that follows rules, Glimmer said. But what if the enemy doesn't believe in rules? What if they think rules are just problems to be solved? The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Well, said Prism philosophically, at least we learned something important today. What's that? Frost asked. Never underestimate the combat effectiveness of spilled coffee. Despite everything they'd learned, despite all the terrifying implications and paradigm shifts, the entire group burst into laughter. Because sometimes, even in the face of the unknown, laughter is the only sane response. But as they walked away, each of them carried a new understanding of their human allies. They were no longer mysterious or incomprehensible. They were something far more dangerous. They were understandable, and that, perhaps, was the most frightening revelation of all. 3 days later, the same lecture hall buzzed with a different kind of energy. Word had spread through the academy like wildfire. The human exchange student was going to be teaching the next class. Every seat was filled, and several instructors had quietly slipped in to observe. Commander Vex 941 entered with Luna Martinez at his side, carrying a stack of classified intelligence reports. The room fell silent as they approached the podium. The cadets, Vex 941 announced, today we have a special guest instructor. Miss Martinez has agreed to provide us with insights into human defensive strategies. I trust you'll give her your full attention. Luna stepped forward, her demeanor noticeably different from 3 days ago. Gone was the amused observer. In her place stood someone who looked like she'd been born to command attention. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice carrying easily across the room. "Before we start, I want to show you something." She activated the holographic display, showing a star map of human territory. This is what the Galactic Defense Force intelligence files say about human defensive capabilities. Red markers appeared across the map. Minimal fortifications, scattered patrol fleets, no significant defensive installations. Murmurs rippled through the audience. "According to your reports," Luna continued, "humans maintain their territory through sheer luck and the incompetence of their enemies. The assessment concludes that any major assault would succeed within weeks." Vex 941 shifted uncomfortably. "Those reports were supposed to be classified. Now," Luna said, her voice taking on a dangerous edge, "let me show you what human defensive strategy actually looks like." The display changed. The same star map appeared, but now it was covered in a web of interconnected lines, sensor networks, and hidden installations. The empty space between worlds suddenly revealed itself to be anything but empty. "Holy void," whispered Thrix. "It's everywhere." "Welcome to the real human defense network," Luna said. "We call it the Neighborhood Watch." She highlighted different sections of the map. "See, the thing about human defensive strategy is that it's not about stopping invasions. It's about making invasions too expensive to sustain." A Corvan cadet named Spike raised a tentacle, but the intelligence reports showed no significant military installations. "Because you were looking for military installations," Luna replied. "That's your first mistake. Humans don't separate civilian and military infrastructure. We integrate them." She zoomed in on a seemingly empty system. "Take this mining operation in the Tau Ceti system. Your intelligence classified it as economically insignificant, no strategic value. What they missed is that it's not just a mining operation. It's a sensor station, a refueling depot, a communication relay, and a manufacturing facility all rolled into one. But it's run by civilians," protested Glimmer. "Exactly," Luna grinned. "And that's your second mistake. You assume civilians are non-combatants. For humans, there's no such thing as a non-combatant. There are just people who haven't been threatened yet." She pulled up another display showing personnel records. The miners at that facility include 2 retired naval engineers, a former demolitions expert, 3 logistics specialists, and a tactical planning officer who's supposedly on vacation. The room was dead silent. "You see," Luna continued, "humans learned a long time ago that the best defense isn't a wall, it's a community. When you attack one of us, you're not just fighting soldiers. You're fighting teachers, doctors, mechanics, farmers, students, and yes, miners. People who know the territory, who have families to protect, and who really don't like uninvited guests." She changed the display again, showing communication logs. "This is what happened during the Centauri incident 6 months ago. A Thrakari raiding fleet decided to test human defenses by attacking what they thought was an isolated agricultural colony." "I remember that," said Frost. "The raiders reported mechanical failures and withdrew." "Mechanical failures," Luna repeated with a laugh that made several cadets shiver. "Let me tell you what really happened. The moment those raiders entered the system, 47 different sensor stations tracked their approach. Every civilian ship in the area immediately began broadcasting their positions, courses, and weapon signatures on open channels." She paused, letting that sink in. Within minutes, the entire human communication network knew exactly where those raiders were, what they were carrying, and what they were planning. The agricultural colony they were attacking? It was defended by a maintenance crew that included a former shipyard supervisor named Marcus Webb. "A maintenance crew?" Spike asked incredulously. "A maintenance crew," Luna confirmed. Marcus looked at the sensor data, looked at his available resources, and decided that the raider ships looked like they needed some aggressive maintenance. The display showed technical schematics. "See, the thing about maintenance crews is that they know how things work. Really well. They know how to fix things, but more importantly, they know how to break things in ways that look like accidents. The mechanical failures," Vex 941 said slowly, "weren't failures at all." Luna nodded. They were remote system modifications. Marcus and his team had hacked into the raiders' ships and started making helpful improvements. Navigation systems that developed a sudden preference for asteroid fields. Weapon systems that experienced intermittent power fluctuations. Life support systems that began producing interesting smells. You're saying they defeated an entire raiding fleet with computer viruses? Prism asked. Computer viruses, creative engineering, and psychological warfare, Luna confirmed. By the time the raiders realized what was happening, they were lost in an asteroid field. Their weapons wouldn't fire, and their ships smelled like a combination of rotting fish and industrial solvent. But how did they get access to the raiders' systems? Zoom demanded. Luna's smile turned positively predatory, because the raiders were using stolen human technology that came with certain undocumented features. The implications hit the room like a physical blow. You mean? Glimmer whispered. Every piece of human technology in the galaxy is potentially a surveillance device, a weapon, or a very elaborate prank waiting to happen. Luna finished. We prefer to think of it as extended customer service. That's insane, Frost muttered. That's insurance, Luna corrected. See, humans have this saying, plan for the worst, hope for the best. We've been planning for the possibility of galactic war since the day we met our first alien species, and she gestured to the display. Every human colony, every trade station, every diplomatic outpost is part of a vast early warning system. We know when hostile fleets are moving before they even know where they're going, but surely there must be limits. Vex 941 said, You can't monitor everything. Can't we? Luna asked. Let me ask you something, Commander. How many human-made components are in this academy? Vex 941 blinked. I don't know. Several thousand, I suppose. Computer systems, environmental controls, communication equipment. 17,000. 432, Luna said cheerfully. I've been counting. Everything from the main computer core to the coffee dispensers in the cafeteria. The color drained from Vex 941's face. Relax, Luna said. We're not spying on you much. The point is, human technology is everywhere, and it's all designed with one simple principle. Be helpful. Helpful how? Spike asked suspiciously. Well, for example, if a hostile force were to attack this academy, the environmental systems would automatically optimize air circulation to distribute sedative compounds that happen to be stored in the medical bay. The lighting systems would switch to frequencies that induce disorientation in most species. The communication systems would start broadcasting confusion signals on military frequencies. All automatically? Thrix asked. All automatically, Luna confirmed. We call it defensive hospitality. The idea is that if someone attacks our friends, our technology should help our friends defend themselves. Even if humans aren't present? Prism asked. Especially if humans aren't present, Luna said. After all, we can't be everywhere at once, but our technology can be. She changed the display one more time, showing what looked like a peaceful trade route. This is the Kepler Trade Corridor. According to your intelligence, it's a major vulnerability in human space, long, relatively undefended, vital to human commerce. It's an obvious target. Zoom agreed. It's a trap, Luna said flatly. The entire corridor is one massive trap. If anyone attacks it, they won't just be fighting the patrol fleets. They'll be fighting the space lanes themselves. Space lanes can't fight, Frost protested. These can, Luna replied. Every navigation beacon, every refueling station, every communication relay in that corridor is programmed to respond to hostile actions, to attack a human ship. And suddenly every piece of infrastructure in the system becomes actively hostile. She pulled up combat footage. This is what happened when a pirate fleet tried to raid the corridor last year. They disabled 3 freighters and were preparing to board them when the navigation beacons started broadcasting false position data. The pirates found themselves flying straight into the gravity well of a gas giant. The beacons did that? Glimmer asked. The beacons, the communication relays, the automated refueling stations, and the traffic control systems, Luna nodded. They all worked together to herd the pirates into an inescapable position. By the time the human patrol fleet arrived, the pirates had already surrendered. How is that even possible? Vex 941 demanded. Because humans don't just build technology, Luna explained. We build relationships. Every system talks to every other system. They share information, coordinate responses, and work together to solve problems. When the problem is hostile aliens, they solve it accordingly. But that level of integration, Thrick said, the complexity alone should make the systems unreliable. Should, Luna agreed. But humans have a secret weapon when it comes to complex systems. We call it controlled chaos. Controlled chaos? Spike repeated. The idea that complex systems are inherently unpredictable, so you design them to be unpredictable in useful ways, Luna explained. Instead of trying to eliminate chaos, we embrace it and point it at our enemies. She gestured to the display. Every human defensive system has a random element, not random enough to be unreliable, but random enough to be impossible to predict or counter. Your battle computers can't calculate responses to tactics that are determined by quantum fluctuations and coffee preferences. Coffee preferences? Prism asked weakly. The traffic control AI in the Kepler corridor bases its tactical decisions partially on the beverage preferences of the duty officers, Luna said matter-of-factly. Earl Grey means aggressive maneuvering. Coffee means defensive positioning. Hot chocolate means creative solutions involving asteroids. The room sat in stunned silence. You're telling us, Vex 941 said slowly, that human defensive strategy is based on quantum mechanics and hot beverages? Among other things, Luna nodded. The point is, when you're fighting humans, you're not just fighting an army, you're fighting a civilization. Every human, every system, every piece of technology is part of the defense network, and that network doesn't just react to threats, it anticipates them, adapts to them, and finds creative ways to neutralize them. But surely, Zoom said desperately, there must be some way to overcome these defenses, some weakness, some vulnerability. Luna considered this. Well, there is one thing that consistently defeats human defensive systems. The entire room leaned forward. Being friendly, Luna said simply. Humans are terrible at defending against people who aren't actually threats. Show up with peaceful intentions, ask nicely, and we'll probably invite you in for dinner and show you around. That's it? Frost asked. Just be nice? Just be nice, Luna confirmed. The entire human defensive network is designed to protect against hostility. If you're not hostile, it mostly just ignores you. We're much more interested in making friends than fighting enemies. But what if someone pretends to be friendly? Glimmer asked. Then they discover that humans are also really good at detecting deception, Luna said. And that our definition of appropriate response to betrayal is significantly more creative than most species are comfortable with. She paused, looking around the room. Any other questions about human defensive strategy? Vex 941 raised his hand. Just one. How much of what you've told us is actually true? Luna grinned. All of it. But also, none of it. See, the beauty of human defensive strategy is that it's constantly evolving. By the time you figure out how to counter one approach, we've already moved on to something else. So this entire lecture could be outdated tomorrow? Spike asked. Could be, Luna admitted. But probably not, because the real secret of human defensive strategy isn't the technology or the tactics, it's the mindset. Which is? Vex 941 prompted. That defense isn't about stopping attacks, Luna said. It's about making attacks pointless. When someone attacks humans, they're not just fighting our military, they're fighting our entire way of life. And our way of life includes being really, really good at making problems go away. She gestured to the class. That's why this academy exists, not to train soldiers, but to train problem solvers. Because the best defense against hostility is understanding. When you understand each other, you don't need to fight. And if understanding fails? Frost asked. Then you discover that humans are also really good at making their problems go away permanently, Luna said quietly. But we prefer the understanding approach. It's more fun. And the food is better. The class sat in contemplative silence. Everything they thought they knew about warfare, about defense, about human nature had been systematically dismantled and rebuilt. Class dismissed. Vex 941 said finally, "Miss Martinez." Another word? As the cadets filed out, chattering excitedly about everything they'd learned, Luna remained behind once again. "Well?" Vex 941 asked when they were alone. "Well, what?" "What? How much of that was true?" Luna laughed. "Commander, if I told you that, it wouldn't be a very effective defense strategy, would it? So you're not going to tell me?" "I'm going to tell you something better," Luna said. "I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter. I'm listening. Because," Luna said, "the real lesson isn't about human defensive strategy. It's about human nature. We're not warriors. We're not conquerors. We're not even particularly violent. We're just really, really good at solving problems." She paused, looking directly at him. "And right now, the biggest problem in the galaxy is that nobody trusts anybody else. Everyone's so busy preparing for war that they've forgotten how to prepare for peace. So what do you suggest?" "I suggest," Luna said, "that instead of trying to figure out how to fight humans, you start figuring out how to be friends with them. Because I guarantee you we're much more useful as allies than as enemies. And if some species choose to be enemies anyway." Luna's smile returned. But it was different now, sadder, but also more determined. "Then they'll discover that humans are really, really good at solving that kind of problem too." As she walked away, Vex 941 couldn't help but think that the galaxy had just become a much more interesting place, and possibly a much safer one, but definitely a more unpredictable one. Outside the Academy, the stars continued their eternal dance, and aware that the future of galactic civilization might very well depend on coffee preferences and the proper application of controlled chaos. And somewhere in human space, a maintenance crew was probably fixing something that would make the galaxy a little bit better, or a little bit more dangerous. With humans, it was sometimes hard to tell the difference.